Hello everyone. In this video, we will talk about materialism and inner unrest. There is a quiet paradox in human life. The more we accumulate, the less at peace we often become. At first glance, this feels irrational. Money promises security, material possessions promise comfort, beauty, and status. Yet, beneath the polished surface of abundance, many people discover a subtle restlessness, a kind of inner noise that refuses to be silenced. Through the lens of Carl Jung, this paradox is not surprising at all. In fact, it reveals something essential about the human psyche. Carl Jung believed that human being is not merely a creature of external success, but of inner wholeness. When life becomes overly focused on material gain, the psyche begins to lose its balance. Wealth in itself is not a problem. The problem arises when wealth replaces meaning. The restlessness of possession. Why do people become more restless as they own more? At the psychological level, possession creates attachment, and attachment creates fear. The more you have, the more you must protect. A person with little may worry about survival, but a person with much often worries about loss of status, loss of wealth, loss of identity. Jung spoke about the ego as a center of our conscious identity. When we accumulate wealth and possessions, the ego tends to expand. It begins to define itself by what it owns. I am successful because I have this. I am valuable because I own that. But the ego is fragile. It constantly seeks reinforcement. No amount of external accumulation can fully satisfy it because its hunger is not material, it is existential. This is why acquiring more rarely leads to lasting peace. Instead, it fuels a cycle. Desire, achievement, temporary satisfaction, emptiness, new desire. The restlessness is not caused by having things, but by mistaking things for fulfillment. The shadow within. One of Carl Jung's most profound ideas is the concept of the shadow, the hidden, unconscious parts of ourselves that we ignore or repress. When people chase material success excessively, they often neglect their inner life, emotions, fears, insecurities, and unresolved wounds that are pushed into the shadow. Outwardly, life looks successful. Inwardly, something feels incomplete. Wealth can even amplify this imbalance. A person who is constantly busy acquiring may avoid asking deeper questions. Who am I beyond what I own? What do I truly need? Why do I feel empty even when I have everything? Without confronting the shadow, these questions remain unanswered, and that unresolved inner tension manifests as anxiety, dissatisfaction, or even depression. In this sense, wealth does not create unhappiness, it exposes it. While the rich may feel more unhappy, it might seem counterintuitive, but many wealthy individuals experience a unique kind of suffering. First, basic needs are no longer the focus. When survival is secure, deeper psychological needs emerge: meaning, purpose, connection. These are far more complex and cannot be purchased. Second, wealth can distort relationships. It becomes difficult to know whether people value you for who you are or what you have. This creates a subtle loneliness, a sense of being surrounded yet not truly seen. Third, there is the burden of identity. When a person's self-worth is tied to success, any threat to that success feels like a threat to the self. The stakes become higher, and so does the anxiety. Carl Jung observed that modern individuals often suffer not from lack of resources, but from the lack of meaning. In a world where material abundance is possible, spiritual emptiness becomes more visible. An average person, by contrast, may still struggle, but often finds meaning in simple things: family, relationships, daily effort. Their identity is less tied to external accumulation and therefore less fragile. The illusion of more. At the heart of the issue lies the powerful illusion, the belief that more will eventually be enough. But more has no natural endpoint. Jung would argue that this endless striving is misdirection of the psyche's true desires. What we are really seeking is not more possessions, but a deeper sense of completeness, what he called individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming whole, integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of oneself. It is the inward journey, not an outward accumulation. When this inner need is ignored, it disguises itself as external desire: more money, more success, more recognition. But no external achievement can replace inner integration. How to live happily, a perspective. So, how do we live in a world where money and materials are necessary, but without becoming trapped by them? The answer is not rejection, but balance. Redefine wealth. True wealth is not what you own, but how you experience life. A person who can enjoy a quiet morning, a meaningful conversation, a moment of peace is already rich in a deeper sense. Material wealth should support life, not define it. Build a relationship with your inner world. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of self-reflection. This means taking time to understand your thoughts, emotions, and patterns. Ask yourself, why do I want this? What am I really seeking? What am I avoiding? These questions gently bring the unconscious into awareness, reducing inner conflict. Integrate the shadow. Instead of suppressing discomfort, face it. Unhappiness often carries a message. It may reveal neglected needs, unresolved pain, misaligned values. By acknowledging these parts, you become more whole and less dependent on external validation. Detached without rejecting, you can enjoy material things without becoming attached to them. Use them, appreciate them, but do not let them define your worth. This subtle shift transforms possession into experience rather than identity. Cultivate meaning over achievement. Achievement is external, meaning is internal. Meaning comes from relationships rooted in authenticity, acts of kindness and contribution, alignment with personal values. These are not things you can buy, but they are the foundation of lasting happiness. Accept the limits of control. Much of the anxiety around wealth comes from the desire to control outcomes, but life is inherently uncertain. Peace comes not from controlling everything, but from accepting what cannot be controlled. A quiet truth. In the end, the question is not whether money and materials are good or bad. It is whether we understand their place in our lives. Carl Jung once suggested that the greatest problems of life are never fully solved, only outgrown. The restlessness tied to materialism is one such problem. It cannot be solved by acquiring more, but it can be outgrown by becoming more aware. A person who knows themselves deeply is less easily disturbed by what they have or lack. And perhaps that is a quiet truth. Happiness is not found in what we hold in our hands, but in what we are able to hold peacefully within ourselves. If you want to have happiness in your life and you base on what you own or possess, you will never find true happiness. This is a story. Just imagine a man sitting in a beautiful room. Everything around him speaks of success. The furniture is elegant, the lighting soft, the silence expansive. Outside the window, the world moves as usual, but inside something feels unsettled. He has everything he once dreamed of, and yet he cannot sleep. If you had to ask a question, Carl Jung was sitting across from him, he would ask, what is it that you are truly seeking in all that you have? And that question, gentle but piercing, is where the real story begins. The man who had everything. This man did not start rich. He worked hard, built his life step by step, sacrificed time, energy, even relationships along the way. He believed, like many do, that one day, when he had enough, he would finally feel at peace. And eventually he made it. More than enough. People admired him, envied him, respected him. But then something unexpected happened. The moment he stopped striving, a strange feeling emerged. Not joy, not relief, but a quiet emptiness. At first, he ignored. He bought more, another house, another investment, another experience. He traveled farther, spent more, surrounded him with more people, more noise, more distractions. But the feeling didn't go away. In fact, it grew louder in silence. When nothing outside can feel what's inside, this is where Carl Jung's insight become almost unsettling in its truth. As long as we are busy chasing, we don't notice what we are running from. But when we finally arrive, when the goals are achieved, the money secure, the status established, there is no more distraction, and then the inner world begins to speak. Carl Jung called this is an encounter with the shadow. The shadow is not evil, it is simply everything within us that we have not faced. Unanswered questions, unhealed wounds, unacknowledged fears, parts of ourselves we left behind in the pursuit of success. For years, this man had been building his outer world, but he had neglected his inner one. And now, with nothing left to chase, he was left with himself. Why more becomes heavier? Let's slow down here, because this is where many people quietly recognize themselves. When you have little, your concerns are simple. But when you have much, your concerns multiply. You don't just enjoy what you have, you begin to protect it. Protect your wealth, protect your reputation, protect your image, protect identity you have built around success. And without realizing it, something shifts. You no longer say, I have these things. Instead, it becomes, I am these things. And that is where restlessness begins, because anything that can be lost can never truly give you peace. The hidden loneliness of success. There is another layer to this. When a person becomes wealthy, relationships often change. It becomes harder to trust, harder to know who sees you and who sees what you have. Conversations become filtered, connection become uncertain, and slowly a quiet loneliness forms. Not the kind where you are alone, but the kind where you are surrounded but not fully known. Meanwhile, someone with an ordinary life, less wealth, fewer possessions, may still struggle but often holds on to something deeply grounding, a real conversation, a shared meal, a simple moment that requires nothing to prove. They may not have everything, but they are not carrying everything either. The illusion of just a little more. Now here is the most subtle trap of all, the belief that just a little more will finally be enough. You reach one goal, and for a moment you feel satisfied. Then the feeling fades, and a new desire appears. The cycle continues endlessly. Desire, achievement, temporary relief, emptiness, and a new desire. Jung would say this is not a failure of success, it is the misdirection of the soul, because what you are really seeking is not more, it is wholeness. The journey back to yourself. Jung called this deeper process individuation, a journey of becoming whole, not richer, not more powerful, but more integrated, more aware, and more alive within yourself. And this journey does not happen outwardly, it happens quietly, inwardly, often in moments when you stop running. How do you live happily? Not by rejecting money, not by escaping the world, but by changing your relationship with both. First, learn to pause. Not every moment needs to be productive. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is sit still and ask, am I living or just achieving? Second, redefine what enough means. Enough is not a number, it is a feeling. A person feels less, but who feels content is often richer than someone who has everything but feels empty. Third, turn inward gently. Instead of constantly asking, what do I want next? Ask, what is happening inside me right now? That shift alone changes everything. Fourth, own things but don't let them own you. You can enjoy beauty, comfort, success, but the moment they define your identity, they begin to control your peace. Fifth, choose meaning over accumulation. Meaning doesn't come from what you collect. It comes from how you connect, how you love, how you understand yourself and others. These are the only things that grow deeper with time. And the man's. Let's return to him sitting in the quiet room. He didn't give everything away. He didn't abandon his life. He simply began to live differently. He slowed down. He listened. He allowed himself to feel the discomfort he had avoided for years. And slowly something shifted. The emptiness he feared was not a void, it was a doorway back to himself. And maybe that is the truth most people discover too late. Happiness is not found in what you hold in your hands, but in what no longer unsettles your heart. When your hands are empty, if you understand this, and you will stop accumulate more material and start living inward and discover what do you truly want in your life. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the video. Click like and subscribe to hear some other video about the ego and the shadow when it's come to living a meaningful life and